Excuse me, madam. I think you are on mute.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, we can't hear you.
Can you, okay, so for,
Yes, ma'am,
where
it
did
is
you
audible.
stop hearing me?
Ma'am, just 2 minutes back.
Okay, so when I'm talking about the theories in this regard, so let me just repeat it. There are multiple theories, okay, in psychology. As I said, I don't know how much are you aware about the various theories, and I'm not going into details for that. But there were multiple theories like Freudian theory, Skinner's theory, then we have theories given by Pavlov. So all these theories are talking about preconceive or some conception of certain ideas using certain tools to convert them into behavioral patterns. So it is a, again, I would say, when I quoted the much use quotes of of a German system which talks about beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. It is just not the content or the idea itself. It is the whole process of converting it into action that is requires that is all covered by the factors of innovation. Okay, now moving on to the PPT, if we, as I said, creativity and innovation are the most thrown around words in any business settings, in any conversations across the table. We're all talking about being creative, being innovative, but we tend to lose the essence of it once in a while. We actually, do we understand what it is what is the concern that I have here. Now, initially, when we look at the history, creativity was something that was non-productive. Why? Because we always associated it to, thinkers, painters or writers. These were the people who were not termed as per the social system, okay, as productive people. These were the people जिनको हम लोग अक्सर in our common trends कहते थे ये तो पागल है, इनसे बात नहीं करनी चाहिए, या इन they are not practical people, they don't understand life. But that is how creativity was connoted with individuals as being something that is not very productive. Okay, but yes, over a period of time, the way our society has progressed due to various industrial movements, competitions, internet coming in, the ways of business is changing. We are moving from a more from a more capitalist to a more a consumer based marketing and all those scenarios. So all that over a period made us understand that creativity and innovation is at times indispensable when we are looking at them from the point of view of being of survival. So businesses need to survive, individuals need to survive, and it is not just survival, it is also talking about rejuvenating individuals into those factors. So therefore we can say that creativity drives innovation, and innovation will lead to certain progress. So that is how probably, if we see the ethological ways of dealing with creativity and innovation. Okay. So moving on to the next factor, here is, I'm giving you a very, very brief, very, very minute, as it is, as I said, that creativity and innovation are generally used interchangeably. And but there is a very minute difference. I did talk about that difference yesterday in the inaugural talk also, where I mentioned that creativity is more individualistic, whereas when we're talking about human factors, innovation, it is a more process oriented thing. We also term creativity to a novel idea, something that is created. Whereas when we're talking about innovation, we look at rejuvenating it or rethinking it, or adding certain interventions to make the existing process procedures a little more effective. So we're talking about tweaking in that case. We tweak the existing system, the process, and various other factors to make it more effective. Whereas creativity is talking specifically about a new system, a new generation, a creation of something. So that is more, that is very, interesting mind process comes in there. Okay. Now, if you look at it, creativity and innovation are both talking about a process of thinking process in create. When we're talking about seeing it, it is more in terms of, dealing with creation of new things, whereas innovation is talking about adding value to the existing system. So they're both requiring certain cognitive fractions. So therefore, your creativity innovation comes in with an inbuilt factor of various psychological processes. Okay, thinking being one of them, processing being the other one. Okay, yes, next slide. Okay, so this is a very a basic example that I'm giving you since we're interacting. If we're giving you an example of IBM, this was a study that was conducted in the early 2000s, and wherein we talked about as to how, what is the most incredible or, indispensable factors that we're looking at when we're talking about, the future of CEOs in organizations. And the study was conducted on an average of 100, 500, 1500 CEOs, and they all felt that creativity is one of the most important components, leadership being the second, and creativity in leadership being the most important factor for CEOs in the next 5 years. So we see that leadership is required, right? But creativity in leadership is again an important component that is required for them to generate the kind of output, generate the kind of motivation, generate the kind of thought process, generate the kind of culture, work culture that is present, is very, very pertinent to the system. Okay, next slide. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Okay, so I think there is a glitch in the network, so I'll just go on with what I'm trying to say is that organizations need to understand that creativity is a very, very indispensable factor. And for that, we need to, how do we inculcate an environment which is creative? Now, for that, we need to understand that creativity cannot come within the time frame of systems. Okay, it cannot come within the system. Therefore, the concept of out of the box thinking came into being. That is, you need to go beyond the boundaries. You need to break the mileages or these the reference points that have been kept for using it in a more that things happen this way. We cannot just find or enhance creativity when we are boundaryifying ourselves, when we are trying to enclose ourselves into systems. So therefore, when we are talking about encouraging creativity in organizational setups, we need to understand that we need to let go, a let go of control. Now, again, some of you might question that if we are letting go of things, then where is discipline? How? So we're not talking about letting people go off the hook in terms of their work ethics. What we're talking about is let them think, let them voice that thought process, let them question the existing processes and see how those processes and products can be made better, more competitive, so that they are able to provide better services and a better consumer satisfaction. So that is what we are looking at. Now, again, I've used a word called satisfaction here. Satisfaction, again, is a very, very subjective word. So again, that involves further psychological analysis as to how we can, probably talk about satisfaction in those terms. Now, satisfaction is majorly, when we measure in an organizational setup, it is the majoritarian view. That is, the majority of our clients, the majority of our consumers, the majority of our stakeholders are in general satisfied, happy, and content with the way things are going. So it is again a very majoritarian viewpoint. It is not talking about the whole. Okay, so satisfaction there becomes a very, very subjective factor. Okay, now it is very important to break your status quo. Now, when we break our status quo, what happens? Whenever we are breaking our status quo, there will be chances of uncertainty. Now, we all know that one of the most dreaded fears for any individual is uncertainty. We all are. You know, the moment the pandemic came in, okay, now taking the reference from the current scenario, the moment the pandemic came in, we were all so uncertain about what was happening, how and why, and for how long we will be in this scenario. And as a result, we panicked. We had certain, we created certain panic-stricken decisions and also behavior. There were panic buyings, there were panic hoardings, there were panic medications that people were taking home. Now, all those things led to a state of further confusion, that led to a state of further, mismanagement of things. So when we are talking about questioning the status quo and easing out the system, that means there will be a loom of uncertainty there, which is again one of the biggest fears. Now, as a leader, we need to keep our controls in a way that we give people the ability to think out of the box. We let people behave and take up, functionings as questioning the system, but at least we create or we keep the foundation and the sink together. Okay, because too much of uncertainty, we cannot just unleash people. Or if you see, whenever anybody, or you see any captive animals, if you keep an animal captive, the moment you unleash them, okay, what happens? They go frantic. They will try to explore things. They will try to, probably look at things. They will try to smell things. They will try to sniffle on things. But what happens over a period of time? They tend to settle down because they have identified their boundaries. So whenever we are unleashing our systems, we are unleashing our controls, we need to give certain time frame for this panic, but we have to keep a check as to this panic should not become a state of chaos. Okay, so that literal leadership function has to come in, where we do not provide barriers to new ideas or letting people think, but what we are trying to do is we create a culture, we exemplify things, we create a culture wherein our people know that you have the freedom to go beyond. Now, once I know that I have a freedom to go beyond, then panic and chaos can be minimized. So therefore, it is very important for an organization not only to just one more fine morning come and say, okay, now you people are unleashed, you people can just go think out of the box, come with things. What will happen? People will come with different error and the trial and error functions. And what will happen to your product line? What will happen to your supply chain? What would happen to your production line? What would happen to your consumer satisfaction? There would be errors. Errors would lead to, faulty products and services. Faulty products and services will lead to further dissatisfaction. That might amount to losing of your, you might lose your clientele. So all these things needs to be, monitored. And when I'm saying monitored, I'm not using the word control that, therefore. So monitoring is by providing an environment where people know that, yes, we can take this leverage, we can think beyond the point, and we can, so there will be least panic and less, chaos that will be caused in the system. So that is where creativity and innovation needs to be understood by an organization rather than just by using it as a fad, using it as something that is more fashionable and being used by everybody and in every meeting. So we should also do that. That is not the point. The point is in creating and inculcating an environment that fosters creativity and innovation. Okay, next. Okay. Moving ahead with how and why it takes care of. Now, let me tell you one more thing. When we're trying to create an environment or a culture of creativity and innovation, we need to understand a psychological process called thinking. Okay. Now, thinking can happen in two ways. Okay. We can have very convergent thinking and we can have very divergent thinkings. Now, convergent thinkings generally come in form of, people norming, conforming to the system and doing very minimal changes and जो होता आया है हम वही करते हैं उसी लाइन पे सोचते हैं. Whereas divergent thinking is more talking about breaking the shackles, going beyond and working for more. So organizations, when they're trying to build up a culture, they need to take these factors into being and also help foster innovation as a cultural function, not as an imposed function. A culture evolves. Okay, so that needs to be taken care of when we are talking about these process. Now, also understand when we are talking about convergent thinking is majorly more scientific in nature. Okay, that is, you will be more technologically sound. You'll work on models and you'll work on principles to function and come out with the best possible output. But when we are talking about divergent thinking, it may or may not be that scientific. It may not be so effective in terms of functioning. So thinking is a very, very important component when we're talking about organizations in creation of systems. Okay. Now, we all are coming from various backgrounds. Now, if you look at it, if you can just think and about your own organizations, are you given that kind of an environment where you can, where creativity and innovation are supported, are creative efforts communicated and celebrated? Are leaders supportive in both words as well as deeds? See, I'm using these words. Why? Because coming from an HR field, I know how it is when organizations want to portray a picture and what they're actually doing. Okay, so when we are talking about evolving a culture, we're talking about looking at it from the perspective of not only words, but also encouraging those deeds. Similarly, we have to see how our efforts are being communicated and also being celebrated. Now, if somebody has come up with an out-of-the-box idea that is making a difference in the system, needs to be celebrated, needs to be communicated, needs to be, practiced. So in that case, what happens is that we are letting the system evolve and let creativity and innovation come in sync with each other at those formats. So creative barriers have to be have your encountered in your efforts. Now, there can be ways, there are a lot of people who say ki nahi nahi aap creative hain and you go ahead, but when it comes to actually taking decisions and implementing those creative interventions, our general management backs out, because again, there is an apprehension, there is a fear of the unknown. What will happen? Because we are so used to, we are so trained as individuals. If we look at ourselves, we are very trained in walking the set path. All of us in all our families have been told to do this and then this and then this, and you do it because all your past generations have done that, or the society conforms to that. So we have been programmed, we have been put in a system where whatever has been done is only correct. And since everybody is doing it, we need to follow the same thing. So it is a very inherent factor in our systems, in our social system, that we don't let creativity grow. Okay. If a child from the very beginning says that I want to be a painter, how many of the parents will encourage that? Or if they want to get into creative arts, how many of you? No, you all have to do your studies, then get into specific, careers like doctors, engineers, managers, whatsoever. You have to do that. You can treat these creative factors as your hobbies. Photography will be a hobby, painting could be a hobby, but you will not indulge your children to have them as a profession. Now, of course, world is changing. Things have changed. We have seen a lot of our younger lot getting into these things, and parents are supporting it. But again, I would say these are cultural changes that are coming, and that will happen over a period of time. So that's how. So we need to think deeper when we are talking about creativity and innovation. It's just not a word. It's more about how you are you are behaving yourself and how well you are taking the behavior of the other people in this regard. Okay, next. Now, we have to understand why at all we are talking about innovation and creativity here. Now, why I'm using the word creativity more often here is because we are talking about more individual factors. When we'll turn it into a probably a process, we will come to the word innovation. Okay, so importance of creativity is why, because in this highly competitive and global environment, we need big ideas. We need to challenge our employees to think differently and open up new gates for for new opportunities, for new ways of working. At the same time, creativity is a mechanism or to being innovative. As I said in the very beginning, creativity is individualistic, whereas innovation is a process-oriented process. So therefore, creativity becomes the center point or the initiation for any innovative practices to be commenced. It needs to be prioritized by senior leadership. We have to have acceptance, because if there is a difference between the words and the deeds, definitely you're killing the environment of creativity and innovation. Now, creative leaders are more comfortable with ambiguity. Every industry is being challenged by global dynamics and the change of technology. Now, definitely when we are talking about creativity, we're talking about a more ambiguous factors, things that are not very clear. So creativity in itself has this component of ambiguity. It talks about, how these uncertain and ambiguous factors can be made into more certain and more product-oriented factors. Now, in a survey that was conducted, 8 out of 10 CEOs have rated creativity as their top priority over vision and managerial disciplines. So we can understand that, see, because it is a very, very cross functioning factors. It happens across the line. It is not just happening in one scenario. So all innovations start from a creative movement. There has to be a creative movement. There has to be a single idea. There has to be one thought that will lead to the kind of output and the product that come out that we term as innovation. That is an innovative way of making decision, innovative way of marketing, innovative way of cost cutting, innovative way of motivation, whatsoever. So there has to be a creative moment for it to transform itself into an innovation over a period of time. Okay, next. Okay, now these are certain ways in which we are trying to foster creativity in an organization. Now, we have to reward creativity, as I said, and you have to celebrate it. You have to identify it. Another factor that we need to understand is hiring. Now, we do talk about having the right kind of a person at the right time, at the right place, but how many of us are in building it in our hiring process as organizations? We generally tend to go by the job profile and we map it to the specifications. We end up finding a person who fits that profile well. But are we giving them the scope? Are we hiring the next CEO? Are we hiring, why are we hiring this person? Is he going to be the slave of the system, or is he going to be given the opportunity to provide innovative and business growth to the system? So those questions need to be answered when we are trying to find out our hiring process and utilizing certain battery of tests, because all the hiring process have to go through certain, battery of tests, which one has to do to come out with the output. Now, try the yes and approach. First agreeing and then adding to it. Now, that is a very, very, when we're doing brainstorming in systems, normally when somebody comes with an idea which is not a very regular idea, we all tend to be skeptical and say no. Yes, as a leader, as a senior, if I can give that scope to my workers as to say as to, okay, yes, what you're saying is sounds interesting, and what and how, then probably we are trying to align this entire thought into a process, and then we can have input from various sources to put this in, amalgamate it into a process and come out with an output. So that will enhance not only the creativity of an individual, but also as a team. You would be able to make it more creative. You will be able to innovate on ideas. Suppose I give an idea, Ranjit ji has a different take on that. He adds to it, and I feel okay. His addition is far more, convincing. So my thought will probably engulf his idea and come out with a third thought. And then you keep on taking these threads of thought from people, and in the end, probably you may come out with a very different product to what you had thought, or you are somewhere near. So these things happen because then people also start thinking and also start relating, and then also reverberating things into the system. Okay. Now, this is a very, very HR thing that I'm telling you. Okay. Working hours. Now, we tend to put people into the working hour scenario. Not necessarily every individual has a different biological clock. I'm not again going on the discipline mode of people, attendance and all those things. Now, we have to have a culture of a system where we all understand that people are willing to work. People are there to perform. People are there to give us their best. So if we can give that kind of, I'm talking about an ideal, you may say that I'm talking about a very, very idealistic working scenario, but that is what we are all aiming at. And hence we have come up with the systems of flexi working. And with the pandemic in 2 years, last 2 years, we've been just working off the hook in virtual modes at whatever time, we've been working at morning hours, we are working at late evenings, meetings were called whenever everybody was comfortable. Somebody wanted to go for a walk, somebody was having some other, household chore to attend, and then we would all come in for a meeting at 7 or say 8, but that was as per the convenience of people so that they can participate 100% in that. But when we try to put it in a time schedule of 9 to 5, had this virtual thing going on, it used to be just 9 to 5, a lot lesser work would have happened, I'm telling you. Because in the pandemic time, I'm specifically talking about this scenario, people were not allowing their house helps, people were not allowing other, so everything was being done by the two people, the husband, the family. If the child is young, then normally what happens, there is a caretaker. Now the caretaker is not coming, everything needs to be done by the one of the parent. If the other parent has a meeting, who's going to attend to the other household jobs? So you would get very distracted and fragmented attention of people, and obviously not a heavy an unhappy worker can never be very creative and productive. So we have multiple, theories bounding to that. So that is a very, very important component that we need to look at. Okay. Another thing is we need time. We need our instances. We need see, we all tend to burn ourselves out when we are working. Why? Because we're continuously fighting situations, we are fighting deadlines, we are trying to give our best, we are trying to extract the best out of other people. So it's a very cumbersome process that comes into being, and hence we need to take out time to recapitulate ourselves, to recharge ourselves, to so that we can have a better thinking. Now, for that, you need to follow. I mean, there is a very, very general way. We said we should have a hobby. Your work should not be a hobby. You should have a parallel hobby, because when we are trying to break ourselves from the work patterns, we tend to go towards our hobby, and that really gives us an insight and a different perspective of things. So therefore, we need to give our workers, our employees, our teammates chance to recharge themselves and come out with more energy and more, a higher level of thinking. So creativity lends itself to finding unique solutions to problems and to unique features on product and unique business models of revenue. So creativity on a whole will give us a lot more process oriented things, and hence we would have innovative ideas and innovative processes to let our system work. Okay, moving to the next slide. Okay, so now I've given you a lot of input as to what are, creativity, its importance in system, leadership, and all those factors. But we need to understand that there is an inseparable triad which functions, okay, when we're talking of creativity and innovation in an organizational setup, okay. So we have to take the basic input, the first input, and that is in form of an individual. Our individuals are the people who are coming up, who have a thinking process, who will have the passion to follow that, who will have the behavioral patterns to, they will behave in a certain manner that will put their thought into practice and practice into product. So the basic initiation point for us in this entire process is individual. Now, this individual will further probably these individuals, when combined together, will come to an organization, and an organization that will foster such kind of behavior, that will allow people to think, that will allow people to be creative, that will allow people to participate and take decisions in a more innovative way. And then the culture. So I have been mentioning these words from the very beginning, but now we need to understand the relationship they have. So each has its overlapping impact on the other. So individual to organization, organization to culture. So this is how the flow of things go ahead when we are talking about these factors. Now, when we are looking at the creativity perspectives in an individual, we are talking about divergent thinking, as I have mentioned, convergent and divergent thinking. Then continue thinking along these lines, think broadly and think deeply into the future of the organization, how these thinking patterns can help us in the future development. Personal fear of invalidity, inversely related to creativity. That is, will this risk that I'm taking, or will this thing that I'm thinking will make me more invalid for the organization? That is, I would not be no longer, what if I fail? So that is the fear that is there, that leads us to put in more effort and think from all dimensions and try to put in a product and a process right. Okay. Employee innovativeness is influenced by the proactive personality, who are highly engaged in the daily challenges involved at work. Now, again, a very important psychological component comes out here is personality. Now, we all understand that each individual comes with its own set of values, norms, behavioral patterns, perceptions, the thought process, morals. So we, as each individual, is a combination of all these. Okay. Now, innovativeness and creativity will require certain behavioral fractions as to how we will behave, how we will be looked upon, how will our persona be, whether we are serious to the job, we are seen as sincere workers, committed people who can be taken seriously. So all those things are something that we emulate from our personality, and that becomes a very, very important component in how you would be received, one thing, and how you would behave. So all those things are a very, very important psychological phenomena that we look at. Now, there are instances where we have looked at our very creative and innovative people as being not normal. Okay, their dressing would not be normal, or their hairstyle would not be normal, or their appearance would not be so normal. There would be something amiss, but then we say that they are genius and therefore they are like that. Okay, so these are your personality traits that come into action when we're talking about your behaviorals and innovativeness in the system. Okay, now organizations. What do organizations contribute there? Workforce diversity can enhance individual and group creativity. We cannot be very ethnocentric when we are trying to create a cultural system, okay, a culture of innovation and creativity. Now, when we say that ethnocentric, why I'm saying that? Because when we try to be ethnocentric, we tend to feel that our kind of people are only good, productive, the rest are not. Okay, so those diversities of gender, diversity of race, diversity of age, diversity of backgrounds are very, very important for any organization to foster creativity and innovation, because they will come up with their own, again, I would say, baggage of values and beliefs and way of thinking and behavioral pattern, and that might give us an insight to things that we are not aware of. Okay, we need a devil's advocate in our system. We need somebody who thinks differently from me to be able to find out faults, to find out gaps, to find out what could go bad. So we need people to think from various perspectives and give us that. Therefore, teams are created. Now, teams are created so that people with different perspectives can come to a consensus and create a common knowledge, and knowledge that will transform itself into a service or a product. Okay. Similarly, converging a perceived interest in employee at a personal levels can lead to higher creative performance. That is, if we understand, you tend to identify people, and then you tend to give them opportunity to perform. And if you feel that this person has the caliber and can make a difference to your system, you keep on fostering that kind of support to an individual. He may or may not be successful every time, but yes, you're still giving that kind of a support. That leads to a snowball effect kind of a thing, wherein other people say, okay, if they are promoting that person, I can also, take my shot, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it becomes a snowball impact that we talk of. Now, leadership behavior and perceived support is one of the important components when we're talking of enhancing or inculcating a productive system. Okay. Similarly, when we come to culture and creativity, we have to understand that multicultural interactions and multicultural exposures are very, very important. As I said, the components of team needs to be very, very divergent, and culture tightness and looseness they're both very important. Now, you would say that these are dichotomic things, but we have to understand, when we're creating a culture, what we're doing is we're creating an environment that fosters a system which is letting people think out of the box, let people behave in a manner which is different. It also lets people, take their chances. But we have to also understand at the same time that what would be the repercussions of our failings, because it's not only me. Okay, it's not only my manager or my team that is going to fail. If we fail, we are failing a system, we are failing our clients, we are failing our support system. Now, what happens then? We're losing clientele, you can lose market shares, you can lose jobs. The organization may, convert from a profit earning to a loss earning, a loss situation. So the repercussions and the price that we are ready to pay for an innovative and a creative idea needs to be measured. So therefore, there needs to be certain tightness as well as openness in the system, which will lead to a system which is inculcating creativity and innovation in fostering production. Okay, innovativeness and fostering a system which gives you satisfactory outputs in general. Okay, next. Now, when we're looking at how culture can be, we've been talking about how, creating a culture of innovation and all those things. How do we create a culture? Now, culture development does not happen overnight. You cannot say from tomorrow onwards we will think like this, or tomorrow onwards we'll behave like this. It is something that evolves over a period of time. It has inputs from each and every member that enters the organization and contributes. Why I'm saying, just not saying entering, I'm also saying somebody who enters and contributes at the same time. Why? Because the contribution of an individual will showcase his or her thought process, behavioral patterns, value systems, and models, and hence it will, add to the existing system. So therefore, the ideas should be nurtured and encouraged. The employees should be empowered to take certain decisions and to take certain risks. There should be a very, very fluid communication system. I am using the word fluid because it should flow freely. Any gap in communication can lead to a trap, can lead to certain gaps not being seen, certain problems not being resolved, and hence leading to certain failures. Okay. Now, motivation should be personal. It has to be a personal thing. Now, when we are dealing with our, with a system and we have set of employees, we have teams, we have people at various levels of hierarchy, there needs to be a connect. A connect, I'm not saying that you go and talk to everybody every day, but there need to be some kind of a connect which gives them the leverage that tomorrow, if need be, I can be reached out, or you can be reached out, you can be talked, you can be there to solve, you can give solutions, you can, give your ideas, inputs. So that kind of a connect is very, very important, because if we have that kind of a pattern, and it does come from a lot of open and fluid communication systems, the motivation of an individual will always be high, because he knows that he can be heard and he can be taken into account at the same time. So therefore, motivation would be very, very, he would know that what is being looked at by the management. Okay. Similarly, we need to accept failures, because I can understand failures would give you no financial benefit, but they will give you something which is far more valuable, and that is experience. Now, any learning that comes out of these failures, or the failed process, or the failed initiative, will definitely come with its learning as to what went wrong and where did we go wrong. And if we can utilize those wrongs and convert them into our own rights, then in future, chances of you bungling up a job or creating a failed process diminishes. So therefore, it becomes very important as to how these things can be created and moved. Now, when we're trying to develop a culture, we need to understand how it can be done. Okay, we need to understand how it will be done and how these things can be reciprocated. So by going on the next slide, we are talking about this how part of building a culture of innovativeness. Now, we say that when we're trying to cultivate a culture, when we're trying to enhance a culture, we need to have, we need to talk about the structure. We need to talk about the leadership. We need to talk about the incent. We need to talk about how to build. Okay, so all these things become very, very important components. Now, going on to the next slide, if you can take me to the next slide. Here, that is what I'm talking about. To lead, build the ambidextrous senior team, communicate the strategy, allocate resources. When we're talking about ambidextrous, we're talking about an ambidextrous person is somebody who can write from both hands. Okay, so somebody who can coordinate the work from both hands. So therefore, an ambidextrous leadership is very, very important, that they need to understand all sides, reciprocate to all sides, communicate to all sides, and function accordingly. Now, structure. The kind of structure that we are following in an organizational setup, whether it's an open door policy, it is a flat organization, it is a team-based organization, we're doing matrix organizations, what kind of a structure it is that we're looking at to precipitate innovativeness in our system. Now, incent, just what's in this for me. You have to explain to each and every member how this is going to impact. What is there for you and what is there for me, what is there for the organization, what is there for the suppliers, what is there for the customer. So that needs to be, the incent needs to be there, okay? And build, lay the foundation of the new culture and the new expectations. You have to do it as not as a leader, but also as a participant, okay? Next. Okay, so these are little anecdotal things that are related to creativity, innovation, and work culture. You can just read through them. This one talks about the boss has a very creative mind. According to him, legend According to legend, he once got the box to think outside of him. So these are just anecdotal things that we generally talk about in organizations. These are just to break from the monotony of the class. I've put in these 2-3 slides. Next. So here he's saying that it's a major project of utmost importance, but it has no budget, no guidelines, no staff support, and it's due in 15 minutes. At last, there's a chance to really impress everyone. So that is how, when we're talking about the difference between the deed and the words, okay, how you're fostering people, how you're motivating people. If you're giving somebody this kind of a treatment, and forget about innovation and creativity and any kind of productivity. Okay, next. So that's when we're saying that whether we have a managerial support to our processes. So these are very cultural oriented, anecdotes that or little cartoons that I have put in here, so that because it's very easy when I'm saying, then we'll say ki ye to hota hi hoga. No, that's not happening in the organizational setups. So these little snippets can give you the real things that happen and might happen in the system for that matter. Next. Okay, so here we are coming to a very, very important, this is the second half of the presentation where we shift ourselves from understanding creativity and the process and everything and the structure and the organization and the intertwinklement of individual organization culture to innovation as a creative process, marginality, and how we need to innovate and renovate into a system. Now, if you look at it, we need to understand certain profession. See, marginality is not only an intellectual process. When we're talking about marginalizing things, we're just not talking about, an intellectual process of marginalizing. It is a multidimensional one. It involves people at multiple levels of being and functioning, and there's a lot. Then in their work, you have to link ecology, poverty, and a lot of things to it. Now, we have to understand that creativity emanates out of freedom and choice, while still others allude to optimal marginality as a thriving condition of intellectual creativity. We need those factors, but marginalization is something that takes it. As I said, it is a multidimensional thing. It involves people at multiple levels of being and functionings. Any discourse on marginality begs the question, how can the poor be creative or innovative as a way of recovering their rights and voices? Now, there is a very, very interesting phenomena that is related to marginality in general is jugaad. Okay, now as Indians, we have constituted our system as creating. Now, if you have seen now, the general host or the premise of being creative and innovation in our system is coming from good education, coming from good backgrounds, being happy and so forth, so much. But little do we know that creativity, marginality or not being able to get to something leads to creativity and innovation, so that we achieve it in somehow, in some form. And that is why in India, we have coined the word jugaad, wherein we still use it to make the condition more thriving, to make the condition more adaptable, to make the condition more us, so that we derive our satisfaction from these functions. So a privileged or an underprivileged, an incentivized person, can they innovate? Can they perform? So when we're talking about diversity, we also talking about this factor as well in an organization system, that we need to see that the marginalized population, it needs to we often get the best of ideas from the least expecting ones. Why? Because probably the appearance or the existence doesn't matter to us. But when they actually talk and they give you something, then that's the time when you actually start recognizing them and that these people also exist in your organization. Okay, so marginalization, it does come with this system. In this sense, any discourse on the marginality begs the question. That is what we are talking about. That can the underprivileged be insensitivized to innovate? Can we give them the incentive to innovate? And you can definitely, because that is what is happening in systems, and we get the maximum number of innovation from these people. Now we have to understand that see at individual levels, we are two kind of peoples. We are either adapters or we are creators. In both the cases, okay, we are showing flexibility. We are showing our innate, thinking process to excel. We are also talking about to achieve. But adapters are more regressive in nature. They would go by the more regressed, by the more taken path, whereas creators are people who would take the untraveled path, and they will move in a very different phenomena. So creativity and innovations have certain components. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, can we go to the next slide? The next slide. Yeah. So these are the integral components that I'm talking. No. Yeah, this one. So these are the integral components that I'm talking about are very, very important for anyone to be innovative. Expertise. Okay, that you have the knowledge of this. Why I'm saying is that because see, innovation and thinking process is just not the idea, but also your passion for that knowledge, which you build and rebuild with your experience, and the happiness and the satisfaction that you devise from it. So it's not only just the person, it is also who has the idea, but also you're talking about the quality of the idea, the way it can lead to certain behaviors that will give you certain output, okay, which may be out of the box and give you certain relevant exposures. Creative thinking. Creative thinking is another important fraction in solving, giving solutions and providing outputs. Intrinsic task motivation. Now, if we all know, when we talk about motivation, we're talking about two drives. One is internal and the other is external. Now, extrinsic or the external drive comes from third-party rewards, like something called a payment, some promotions. It's a third-party thing. Whereas when we're talking about intrinsic motivation, it is something that is related to your drive, the drive to do certain thing, the passion with which you follow your dreams, the passion that takes you. So at times your intrinsic motivation is so high that any kind of an extrinsic motivation means nothing to you, whether you earn out of it or not, but you're devising certain level of satisfaction and happiness in being so. So that is very important for workers to inculcate certain task motivation that are intrinsic, that I need to do it for my sake, not for to show it to anybody else. So these are very, very psychological phenomena. Now, group task characteristics. Now, that's another important component. Now, every organization has its element of conflict, its element of cooperation, the presence of people who are aware of the task but will not take the initiative to provide a solution to it. So we need to create a group characteristics that takes into account the various phenomena. Somebody will identify, somebody will brainstorm, somebody will be the devil's advocate, somebody will be something. So it is a group characteristics that channelizes a task and gives a probable solution to it. Diversity and knowledge of team members is very, very important component in any innovative process. There has to be divergent views, thinking, multiple know-how that each team member showcases in brainstorming or decision-making processes to make it better, and also external demands. Now, that is where, the most important factor comes in, because threat of uncertainty, okay, inhibited creativity, will inhibit creativity at the early stages. Okay, but we need to understand that survival is far more important than our own insecurities. So to survive in this highly competitive, globalized world, we need to keep on our guards off at times to come up with solutions that can provide that kind of input. Okay, so next slide. Now, coming to the crux of our, presentation, the psychology behind innovations. While not all changes lead to innovation, but all innovations are about changes. We have to understand and accept this factor. Now, personal initiative is the key factor. Okay, how motivated we are, how intrinsically driven we are to take up the situation, identify the gaps, and provide the probable solutions. And if at all we have worked that solution in our mind, should have the encouragement from the culture and the team to voice it. A lot of times we do identify कि हाँ ये problem है, but we don't speak because nobody is bothered, or you feel कि I will be laughed at, or I will not be accepted. So you tend to keep away. मुझसे क्या मतलब? Not my profile. Or you also say that ठीक है देखा जाएगा. There are other people who are thinking about it. So there's a lot of buck passing happening, off the shoulder talks happening. We all know the situation, but nobody is going to address to that elephant in the room. Why? Because that's not my job. So we have to understand that personal initiative is the key for any kind of an innovation that takes place. It is about persisting in the face of repeated challenges, that you need to be persistent. You need to survive. You need to be there is what is more important. And also about proactive behaviors as to how we see these things. As yesterday also, I did talk about I did talk about proactiveness, and when I gave an example as to how IIIT prepared itself for through continuous assessment. We didn't know that pandemic would hit us, but still we were ready with it, and we did perform, we did went ahead with continuous assessment, and hence we were able to sail through these, semesters of pandemic semesters without much problem, and we were on track and on time to give our results, and hence the placement of our students did not suffer. So, and in fact, we got very good placements this year. So these things do matter. So we have to be proactive in our behavior to, come to a certain probable solutions. Then voice behavior, expression and articulation of innovation to others. That is what I'm saying. Will I be laughed at? Will this be accepted? What am I doing? How things will be looked upon? This confidence can only come in from the kind of environment we provide to our workers, the kind of confidence we provide to our employees. So in total, that is the cultural and the organizational setup part that we're looking at. So we are looking at an individual part, and we are looking at the cultural and the organizational part, which leads to, in both the cases, psychology becomes a very important component, because it's just not the structure. Your structure communicates something. It communicates openness. It communicates closeness. It may communicate free behavior. It may communicate restricted behavior. It may communicate that organization is not going to leave the treading path, or the organization is ready to take challenges. So these things, there are certain unsaid factors or not so vocal factors that come from the kind of structure you're doing, the culturing that you're doing, the kind of work culture you're generating, the kind of systems you are making, the kind of processes of functioning you are making, the kind of teams you are making, how well you're accepting ideas, how well you are leading the change, and all those things. So these are very, very, subtle and softer versions of, the structuring and the cultural part that comes in, which percolate down to each individual, making him or her adapt to these fractions and letting him take the initiatives and challenges. Okay, so that's how psychology is behind the innovative practices. Now, moving on to the diffusions that happen. If we go on to the next slide, now these are 4 kind of knowledge that are important in thinking of innovative diffusion. That is how to diffuse innovation into your system. New ideas that emanated from creative process and contain a new piece of information, as well as having an identified creator. That is, not only you identify the ideas and the process and everything, but the creator needs to be identified at the same time. Okay, non-detrimentism. That is, the creative process is not detrimenting. That is, if anything goes wrong, still you are going to be supported. You're going to be taken care of. Constraint. The process is characterized by some constraint and should be developed some obligated actions to address those. That is, the constraints that are there in the system, you need to create certain via mediums to let those go. Then the previous elements and experiences need to be diffused in the system, whether they were of success or failure. In both ways, they will give you certain inputs that will help you create the sync. Okay, so that is why diffusion of innovation into a system becomes a very, very important component. Okay, so that's how we see the percolation of creativity from individuals to process and form of creating an innovative system, and the kind of processes which are psychological in nature that become subtle and subjective parts that become a part of it. So that's how I conclude my presentation. And if you have any questions, we are open for that. Any questions? I can take up any questions.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Can I ask a question?
Yes. Yes, please, please.
Can you tell one example where, because of lack of knowledge related to psychology, innovation has suffered?
I'm not saying that psychology is imperative to innovation. I am saying that psychology, there are certain psychological aspects when we are trying to create innovativeness. Now, when you're saying that, is there any, failures? I won't be able to give you the exact example of any particular organization. But all I can say is that at times, when there is an issue with acceptance, I know that I will be not accepted in, my ideas will not be accepted, or things will not be seen the way they are. Then I tend not to think like that, because I know that every system has its problem. Now, in triple IT, suppose I'm looking at things, I'm looking at the administration, I find a lot of gaps. Every organization has that. Now, till I was not in this role, where I could be heard, I could make a difference, and or I could, contribute. I was not giving it a lot of thinking. I was not even giving it any kind of cognizance. But ever since I've come into this role, I've started thinking. I've started, analyzing things. I'm trying to think creative to fill in these gaps. So, because now I'm more sure that I will be heard, I will be accepted, and the system has, probably intertwined itself with me. So therefore, I will say that your cognition and also the way you're looking at things does impact your innovativeness and thinking process.
Madam, do you take any PhD students in these topics at IIIT Allahabad?
Yes, I do. We do.
Okay. So I think the date is over for this year.
No, it's still on. It's still on,
Okay.
I guess.
We can still apply for that.
I think yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? In the chat box also, I don't see a lot of questions. Ranjit ji, if you so allow, then can I leave?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I was just busy. Interview is also simultaneously going on.
I know. I have to go for the same and put the shift to 4 o'clock today.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So thank you, ma'am. So actually, I was just going through your presentation also simultaneously. So it was a great session. So thank you for being with us, and definitely our participants have been benefited with your deliberations. And this psychology is very important when we have to talk about innovation, because ultimately it is the creativity of a person which inculcate the or which like promotes the innovation. So and for creativity and innovation, one thing is that it's the psychology is very important. So to understand somebody's psychology is important. To understand what kind of creativity and innovation and what atmosphere will be there is very important. So thank you, madam, for being with us.
I hope I was able to do the justice.
Definitely, ma'am. It was a great session. Thank you.
Most
So
welcome. It was a pleasure, and I hope the sessions go on well, and all the best to all the participants for the rest of the sessions.
yes, thank you, ma'am.
And the questions will be mailed to you.
Yes, okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, friends. So this is the end of today's day 2, third session. And actually, interestingly, yesterday I was just talking to madam that all the 3 resource persons were our Nari Shakti females. So it symbolizes that mera desh badal raha hai. Somebody is trying to say something, but I think there is some issue network. Anyway.
I think the administrator is trying to say something.
Yes, sir. Anyway, so thank you, ma'am. And participants, is it just a request? Please go through the instructions that have been given to you, that is mailed to you. And instead of asking, right from the morning at 9 o'clock, I used to get messages, sir, program kab shuru hoga, program kab shuru hoga. When the program schedule is mailed to you that it will be from 10 o'clock, then there is no point in asking at 9 o'clock and trying to log in into the system at 9 o'clock and asking when the program will start. So try to follow the schedule and just try to follow the instructions that have been given to you. This is just a small request from the organizer side. And okay, tomorrow again we shall meet at the same place, same channel at 10 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ranjit ji. I'm just leaving now. Can I leave?
Okay, thank you. Yes, madam, we are also leaving because it's the end of today's session. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a nice time.